Good afternoon, and I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar for the School of Education for the Sport Management Program. I'd like to give everyone a few moments just to get logged in. So let's say we'll go ahead and get started at 12:02. Thanks. Thank you so much for your patience. Again, I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar for the Sport Management Program. I'm really excited that you all are able to join me today as I look forward to getting this information out to you. My name is Maya McGee. I'm an advisor on behalf of the University of Kansas. I'm sure I've had the opportunity to speak with many of you before. If you haven't spoken with me, you've probably spoke with my colleague, Jeremiah. But really excited to get this information out to you guys today. We have a few guest speakers that are also with us today. You'll have the opportunity to hear from Paul White, who's a part of our Student Success Coordinator team. We also have Dr. Jordan Bass here with us today, who is the Sport Management Program Director. And then you'll also be able to hear from Jordan Underwood, who is a Financial Aid Coordinator. I'd like to go over the agenda for today so you have an idea of what we will cover today. Just keeping in mind that if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to type your questions into the question and answer section. I will answer all questions at the very end, as I'd like to be respectful of everyone's time and get through the slides that we have before us. So just keep in mind that any questions that you have, don't wait. You can start typing those up as those questions come along, and we'll go over those towards the end. So today we'll cover a little more about the University of Kansas. For those of you that aren't familiar with the university, we'll go over the value of the program, some of the program features. You'll hear from Dr. Bass about the special topic, which is sports, the new betting laws with sports. You'll also hear a little more about the online masters in the sport management program, what it's like to be a Jayhawk. We'll cover mentorships. We'll go over student success. Jordan will cover some information regarding tuition and funding. And then I'll also go over admissions requirements and deadlines that are approaching soon. And just keeping in mind, again, any questions that you may have, definitely start typing those questions in as we go through the slides, and we'll answer all questions at the end. For those of you that aren't familiar with the University of Kansas, you just want to keep in mind that the Department of Education was actually founded in 1909. So it's been around for quite some time. Graduates have the opportunity to join KU's global network of more than 300,000 alum from KU, keeping in mind that we are also a member of the Association of American Universities, and that the Department of Health, Sport, and Exercise Science was founded by James Naismith. As you can see, there are some statistics that are listed there. Of course, the School of Education comes in at the top 10 best education schools among public universities. We're also ranked 28 for best online education graduate program, and then number 5 for college for vets. I want to talk a little more just like about the value of our program. I think no matter what direction a student is looking to take their career in, KU definitely has something that it can add to your portfolio. And that's one thing that you definitely want to factor in. So keeping in mind that from a marketing team, merchandise, whether if you're looking to become more fans oriented, if you're looking for more of a marketing career, I think that there's a lot that's actually offered within the program that helps our students to outperform others when it comes down to what we do offer. If you take a look here, you'll have some statistics also too as well that the sport industry in North America is expected to grow within the upcoming years. So completing a sport management program that includes an internship, I think that this is one of the biggest components for our students, because what I do get from a lot of students, sometimes, we have students that come from many different walks, whether if they have undergraduate in sport, but a lot of times students don't have that opportunity to get the internship in an undergraduate. And I think that that's something that is very important to help you along the way to advance your career, having that internship component. And that's something that adds to the edge of our students here at KU. And then of course, you'll see the median salary that's actually listed there too as well. And so those are some statistics that we wanted to touch upon. As far as like with the program itself, of course, the program is offered 100% online. So if you are a working professional, definitely one of the things that allows you to be able to attend and maintain everything else that you may have going on within career goals. I think that, a lot of times why students choose the online platform is because they need the flexibility to be able to continue on and maintain life. So keeping in mind with the degree program, there are 36 credit hours. You have 12 courses that you complete. All of our courses are 8 weeks long. You can finish the degree in 2 years. As far as like with GRE requirements for admissions, definitely one of the things that I would say, if you haven't spoken with myself or Jeremiah, if you have questions regarding what the requirements would be when it comes down to the GRE, currently, if your GPA is at least at a 3.0 or higher is what we look for students. But if your GPA falls slightly below that, we can always go over options that you may have when it comes down to requirements. And then just keeping in mind too as well that you'll gain applied understanding of sport management within our degree program. As you look here, you'll see the courses that are listed. The first year of the courses are over to the left side, so you should see a few of the courses that may strike your interest of things that you'd like to learn in a master's program. Keeping in mind that the second year of the program, Phil, that's where you get more of the things that I hear that students want to be a part of, which is usually the internship or the independent study. But that's the 2 years of the program. So just keeping in mind that you take 6 courses within your first year. The second year, you'll take 6 courses as well. With the degree program, just keeping in mind that there are key learning objectives that students should be able to achieve within the degree program. So whether if that's you're looking to learn more about business communication skills, networking and industry engagement, if it's more of sport finance and marketing or sport sponsorship and fundraising that you're looking to get into, I'm sure that, these are some of the things that I do get from students of more of what they want to learn in a master's program. And so with that, just keeping in mind that these are the things that you should be able to learn as you move through the degree program. And at this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Dr. Bass. Dr. Bass will take over from here and go over his special topic for today.
Thanks, Maya. I'm excited to interact with everybody through this webinar. This is my 7th year at the University of Kansas, and I'm very excited about our online master's program and the multitude of students that we've been able to interact with through this program. And we'll have our first graduating class this year, which is very, very exciting. But I'm here today to talk to you about an emerging topic in sport management, and that's the future of sport management in terms of the legality of gambling and how universities, how athletic departments, how professional sport organizations, how just general sport organizations are going to have to learn to deal with this legalized sport gambling that is coming all across the country and is already legal in half the states in the U.S. And so today I just want to quickly walk through some of the key points of sport wagering and how it's very important for the sport management realm. So you see the photo there of chariot races in ancient Rome. Gambling's been around for a long time. This isn't a new concept. This isn't something that has just come about. Wagering on sporting events, on different competitions, has been something that has really been paired with sport from the beginning. And so to think it's taken this long for the U.S. to have legalized sport gambling, especially widely across the country, is probably a bit later than people would have thought. But it's coming, and it's very, very important now. And so in the past, when gambling first began, it was mainly for people that were wealthy. And so they would gamble on chariot races or different animal races. I mean, it was a way for them to pass the time, for them to have a sense of competition and have something to enjoy if you were in the wealthy class. But since then, if you want to move to the next slide here, Maya, since then, we've adapted and made gambling for the masses. And so if you are familiar with wagering in general or sports gambling and the history of it, horse racing was really the first area where we had gambling for the masses. And so when it began, there was in different French provinces, they began with gambling on horse racing. And it was very simple. You would take all the money that was bet on one race. It would all go into a pool. Whoever was the sports book or the person who took the money, who organized the wager, they would take their cut. When it first began, it was usually 20%. And then whatever was left, it would be divided up from whoever bet on the winning horse. So very simple gambling structures that existed. Since then, we've really moved to a more complicated structure. So now in horse racing, we've added odds. So instead of everybody betting on the same horse that you think is the best or is going to win or has a history of winning, if you want to do that, the payout that you're going to get if you bet on that horse is much worse. Or if you want to bet on the long shot, the payout on that is going to be much more. And it used to kind of be taboo to discuss this in the media. And so you'd have some folks in sports media who would discuss wagering and gambling lines and point spreads and all these things that are now very common. If you flip on afternoon television, whether it's on ESPN or FS1 or FS2, you're likely to find some discussion of gambling. There's full shows now on major networks developed around here's the point spreads, here's the prop bets for the Super Bowl that just happened. And so it's important for us as sport management professionals to understand that wagering now isn't just on horse racing. It isn't just for the wealthy class. It's now for the masses. And many states are recognizing the potential revenue that exists, whether it's through tax revenue, whether it's through integrity fees or other things we'll talk about here in a minute. But this wagering area is a thing that we hear from our alums that they're really concerned about, and not in a bad way, concerned in the fact that this is something we need to be ready for. That any legislative session, the lawmakers in our state could pass legalized gambling in our state, or they already have, and how are we going to react to that? So Maya, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll continue here. And so if you go to Las Vegas or any major sports book now in a state that has legalized gambling, you may see a scene like this. This large sports book that has this ticker that goes across that says, here's all the different bets that exist. Here's how you can place a wager. Here's the odds it's going to cost you to place that wager. And if you win, here's how much you're going to take home. And, 10 years ago, you would only find these in Las Vegas. Now they're spread across the different U.S. states that have legalized sports gambling. And most importantly for us as sport managers, we have to figure out how are we going to, one, generate revenue off of this, and two, also how are we going to regulate it. And so understanding what are the pinch points, what are the issues that exist if I'm a sport manager, to try and make sure that the product on the field is something that keeps its integrity. And so you'll see now even on national broadcasts, there was a basketball game that happened last week where the game ended. The game was basically over. There was no reason for them to come back out on the court, but the officials brought everybody back out on the court for 0.1 second so that one of the players on the other team could shoot a free throw, even though it was a 20-point difference between the two teams. And the announcers rightfully speculated, why did they do that? Why would they bring people out? There's no reason to do this. The game's over. They said, well, we have to make sure that there's integrity because there's gambling on these games. That could affect the point spread. That could affect the over-under. It could affect all these different terms. And so it's important that when you are deciding on a graduate program or when you're deciding on what area you're going to go into, that you understand these terms, because these are things that our alums with the Chiefs and the Royals and the St. Louis Blues and Oakland Athletics and groups across the country where we talk to people, that they're trying to figure out how they're going to work through this. How are they going to make sure that their product on the field is not impacted by these gambling initiatives that have come in? And also, if I'm a sport organization, how do I monetize that? So if you want to go to the last slide here. we can talk about that. And so what you're seeing is images like this, which 5 years ago, 10 years ago would have been just blasphemous. This idea that if I'm a national hockey league, or if I'm the NFL, or if I'm the NBA, if I'm a pro sports team or a collegiate sports organization, that I would partner with a sports book. Right? This idea wouldn't even be thought of. The idea that gambling on sports was something that we would embrace as a league was something that has really been new in the last 5 to 7 years. But you're seeing this more and more now. Just last month, the NBA announced that they sold the rights for their live stats to a couple groups. And so if you want to live bet on the NBA, the way that you get the most up-to-date quick stats on the NBA is you have to go through this certain group that they sold the rights to. You have things like FanDuel Sportsbook and DraftKings and Westgate and these major sportbook players in the marketplace partnering with teams, partnering with organizations, so that when betting is legalized in their state, or when they decide that their league is going to have an initiative to try and generate revenue off of this, that they have these partnerships in place. So if I'm a sport organization, I will partner with a certain sports book. They'll be my exclusive partner. It'll make that sports book different from all the other sports books, and something that as an organization I can generate revenue off of. And when you talk about sports gambling outside of the U.S., it's existed on soccer and other major sports for decades. But the one way that they make money off of that is what in European sport is called integrity fees. And so the sports books pay integrity fees to teams, to leagues to exist. And we'll be interested to see if that's something that happens in the US. Right now, it's more of these typical partnerships agreements. So if I'm the Royals or the Chiefs, I have a furniture partner and a TV partner and a car sponsor. And now I'm also going to have a sportsbook sponsor. And they're going to have maybe placement in the stadium. Maybe you can live bet on their app in our stadium. There's all these different ways that as a sport organization, I'm going to have to try to make sure that I'm generating as much revenue as I can from these partnerships. And so one thing we're really pushing in our classes is making sure that our students understand the terminology, they understand the different aspects of the gambling world, so that when they go to a sport organization, when you take that first job and whatever team that you end up with, you're the expert on that. You can come in and say, okay, our state legislature just announced that they're going to bring this bill to the floor next week. If this gets passed, I know all the terminology. I know the different aspects of it. I know how leagues and teams can benefit from it. I know how we can try to prevent scandals that have existed in this space. And it's a way that you can differentiate yourself. And so that's something that we've been pushing with our students in our classes, is to really try and be on the cutting edge of the sport management industry. And for us, and I think for many sport management professionals, how we're going to work through legalized sport wagering, how we're going to, one, profit from it, regulate it, make sure that we understand what's going on in this space. That's something that is very, very important for sport management professionals. And it's a topic that I think you'll see discussed very heavily in the next 5 years. And it wouldn't surprise me in the next 5 years if 45 of the 50 states have some sort of legalized sport gambling. And so the odds of you working for a sport organization in a state that has a legalized gambling and is in something that you're going to have to deal with is very, very high. And so it's just a quick talk that we have a full section about in many of our classes, but it's something that if you would come to KU and join us at KU, we'd certainly love to talk to you more about this emerging sports space of sport wagering.
Thanks, Dr. Bass. So I want to talk a little more, and I think Dr. Bass touched upon some of these points too as well, of why KU's online masters in sport. Again, you have an opportunity to succeed with the program that's offered here, because the program helps you when it comes down to working with team management, sport marketing, event management, things of that nature. And then also factoring in that as you move through the degree program, you'll build a portfolio that's outlined by the North American Society for Sport Management. I think that one of the biggest things that I get from many students, why not KU? You get an opportunity to become a part of the Jayhawk network, which is actually a real community. If you ever have the opportunity to go down to Lawrence, definitely think it's an opportunity that all students should experience, because it is a real community. No matter where you go, whether if it's international or if it's throughout the US, KU is a name that is recognized worldwide. Also, just keeping in mind that you have the opportunity to learn management techniques as well as business theories behind success in sports, but then you can participate in more of a learning environment that offers supervised internships, whether if that's in professional, if it's high school or nonprofit sectors. Talk a little more about Jayhawk Bill. Jayhawk Bill is actually a virtual gamified environment that our students actually participate in. It is an interactive virtual learning interface and it depicts fictional cities. So Jayhawkville helps prepare you for success with hands-on virtual cities that simulate real-world scenarios. So some examples of case studies can actually include submitting a successful event bid to host a major tournament, or deciding whether to sell the naming rights to an athletic facility, or even weighing the pros and cons of allowing children to play contact sport. So as you move through the degree program, you'll see a few areas here that students will manage as they move through the program. So whether if that's a media outlet, if you're youth or community center, Division I university, or just miscellaneous high school teams, just to give you an idea of some of those areas that you would manage. As far as like with online student experience, I know for some students, this may be your first time actually taking classes online. So you want to factor in that with the courses, they are very user-friendly with what we do use here. We use something that's called Canvas. So it's very user-friendly, operates more just like any type of website or application. The platform is asynchronous. So again, it offers the flexibility that no matter where you're located, if you travel for work, things of that nature, you have access to your courses, whether if that's through the learning management system or if you decide to connect with a mobile application. It allows you to track your progress as you move through your degree program. So you'll always have access to your materials even as you're on the go. And I think that that's really important for students. If you ever find that maybe you're working on an assignment and maybe something goes wrong, maybe you're not able to connect to the server, things of that nature, just keeping in mind that there is a 24/7 technical support for any issues that may arise. And I think that that is something that's really important, especially if you're looking to take classes online. The mentorship program is something that is new for us here at KU too as well. So keeping in mind that our students have the ability to network with individuals that are alumni from the university. And so it helps to enrich your learning experience as you move through the degree program. I think that this is something that's really great that we offer here. Just to give you an idea of where some of those mentors may currently work. And I know that Dr. Bass mentioned this too as well, but gives you an idea of where some of those mentors are, whether if it's Kansas City Royals, if it's Major League Baseball, San Francisco Giants, Big Ten Conference, just to give you an idea of where some of those mentors are coming from. Again, I think it's an advantage to our students to have someone, especially for those that are looking to begin their careers. I think it's an advantage to have a mentor, have someone that's already in the field of sport that's connecting with you. Our students also have the ability to study abroad. Just recently, they came back from New Zealand. And so that's another aspect of the program. If you're interested in something like that, you would work with Dr. Bass if you decide to pursue that. But it is an opportunity where you can explore sport, just not through the US, but also through multiple countries. And I think that that's another unique advantage that we do have here at KU. Now I'd like to introduce Jordan Underwood. She will go over information regarding the financial aid portion.
Thank you, Maya. I am actually one of the financial aid counselors here at KU. I am fairly new to KU, but I've been working in financial aid for several years.
Jordan, I think we lost you for a moment there.
Can you hear me again? I'm sorry.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so you do see there that we have the $694 per credit hour cost, which means it equates to approximately $25,000 for the program completion. There is a $65 application fee. That is $85 if you're an international applicant. Do know that these tuition rates can potentially change annually, but we have not seen any major increases in these in the last several years. We do have several different ways to fund your education. Our Financial Aid and Scholarship Office has multiple routes for you to look at. We have the federal graduate loans. Graduate students can receive up to $20,500 per academic year in those federal graduate loans. We do also have an option of KU endowment loans. Those KU endowment loans, you can receive up to $6,000 per academic year. There are also Graduate Plus loans and private and alternative loans. Those two sets of loans actually have to go through a credit check. You as a student goes through a credit check before you can receive those loans, but those usually are a last resort for students after federal graduate loans or a KU endowment loan, just because the repayment options on those and the interest rate tends to be higher than the other two loan options. To fund your education, first step obviously is financial aid. The federal loan programs is your best option as far as getting outside funding for your program. Do know that with the financial aid, you do have to complete a FAFSA. That would be done on FAFSA.gov. As a graduate student, you will not provide parent information on that FAFSA, which is really important to make sure that you're not doing that, because it will change the aid that you are awarded. KU does have a few options for some payment plans. We have the option of a payment plan. It breaks down your payments into 4 or 3 interest-free monthly payments. Those are going to be due on the 1st of each month. If you are a fall starter, those payments start July 1st, August 1st, September 1st, and October 1st for those payment plans. That can all be set up through our student accounts and receivables, which is just located on the KU website. There are some tuition assistant programs out there. There's also military tuition reimbursement and yellow ribbon programs, and then the VA benefits. VA benefits include the GI Bill and other educational-based benefits. Those benefits actually get reported to us through the registrar's office, and we do have a really great program in place for our veterans. As you saw before in the information that was presented, we are one of the top 5 schools in veteran benefits, and working with our veterans, we have a dedicated program to help our veterans get through school.
Thank you so much, Jordan. So I want to talk a little more about the admissions requirements for the program. So keeping in mind that you'll need a completed online application. We'll need official transcripts of your completed bachelor's degree from an accredited university. Again, the undergraduate GPA, we look for a GPA of at least 3.0 or higher. If for some reason your GPA falls below that 3.0 scale, just keeping in mind that you can definitely feel free to reach out to myself or Jeremiah, and we may be able to discuss the options that you would have if your GPA is slightly below that 3.0. We'll require a current resume. You'll need 2 letters of recommendation, and then also a personal statement. With the personal statement, just keeping in mind it is one of the key components of the application. It is viewed as a writing sample, so you definitely want to take some time out to write a thorough and thoughtful statement. And then, of course, there's a standard application fee. If you have questions regarding the application fee, at some points we may be able to waive the application fee. So again, you would just want to make sure that you reach out to myself, or if Jeremiah is your admissions advisor, either or. And then, of course, if you are an international student, then of course we would require an English proficiency exam too as well. With the deadline that is coming up, we're actively recruiting for the upcoming summer term, which the application deadline would be April 17th, with classes that are due to start May 4th. We will always recruit too as well for 1 term out. So if you have any questions regarding the terms, you can always, again, feel free to reach out to myself or Jeremiah. I would also like to introduce our student success coordinator, Paul White. we'll go over some information just like about what happens after a student is accepted into the program.
Yeah, once you've been accepted, you'll hear from one of our student success coordinators, one of them being myself. Another one you may work with is Wright. So one of us will reach out to you. We do work very closely with our admissions team. So as you're finishing up your work with Maya and Jeremiah, it's kind of like a pretty easy handoff, and we'll kind of see what you guys have been doing and then take it from there. The first thing we'll do is we'll reach out with an introduction call. We also call it a welcome call. We'll introduce ourselves, kind of provide some basic contact information, go over any questions you may have, kind of just touch base, make sure you feel comfortable. And then a few weeks after that, you'll get invited to your orientation course. The orientation course is 100% online. It's done via Canvas, which is the online format that we use for all the courses. So that'll be kind of your lifeline while you're in the sport management program. But orientation will teach you how to use Canvas, as well as give you some resources that you'll need as you're working through your program. And then after that, registration will open up. And don't worry there, we'll walk you through the process. So nothing to be worried about there. And then we'll also have a student success call. So that's a little bit different from our welcome call. This is a little bit longer of a call. It's about 30 minutes. We'll go over your goals for the program, make sure you feel confident as you're going into the program, and make sure that you feel comfortable with everything that you did in orientation.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Paul.
Yeah, and then these are just a few of the resources that are available to you as well. So the writing lab is available to all KU students, whether you're on campus or online. So for example, if you have a research paper or anything like that, you are able to kind of schedule an appointment with them and submit it electronically, and they can review it with you. There's 24/7 tech support. So our Canvas support is always there for you, whether it's day or night. Their contact information is embedded in there. And then let's see. Faculty advisor, obviously you're going to work very closely with Dr. Bass. He'll be your faculty, your academic advisor. There's a virtual library, so that's always available to you. And then there's a career center. And really all the resources available to on-campus students at KU are going to be available to online students.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. So there's a few different areas here too as well that if you need to jot those down of places that you can actually locate information about the online sport management program. For some students, if you have a social media presence, there's a couple of different ways that you can feel free to stay up to date with what's actually going on within our program. So at this time, I want to go ahead and turn it over for our question and answer section. So if you guys have any questions, now would be the time to start getting those questions typed in here. As you know, want to make sure that we answer all questions that you may have regarding the program. So it looks like I have a question here regarding how long does the process take to apply for admissions? So just keeping in mind that once you start the application, usually the time frame to, I would say, have everything completed, including letters of recommendation, should usually take you no more than 2 weeks to actually have everything on file. From that point, once you have everything on file, I send your files over for review to the department. Usually that turnaround can take anywhere from 7 to 10 business days for a turnaround with your application. It's a great question. I want to make sure, as far as like with questions, I think now is a great time as Dr. Bass is still here, and so is Jordan. If you have certain questions maybe that you'd like to find out while you're here, definitely feel free to get those questions in, as this time is set aside to ask questions that you may have regarding the program. Dr. Bass, it looks like I have a question for you regarding internship. As far as with the internship, if a student runs into any issues with locating a place for the internship, would the department be able to assist?
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We have a huge network of alums that love Jayhawk students, and one of my favorite things to do is connect students in their interest area with our alums in different organizations. And so right now I'm talking to 2 students in the program as they get ready to prepare for their internship, and having conversations about what their motivations are, where they ultimately want to be, what work constraints they may have that we can work around, and how can we set them up for an internship. It's only 120 contact hours, and so many students are able to keep, if they have a full-time job, keep that position, and then do this internship in their free time and in different areas in which they have the ability to do so. So we're certainly here to help students work through that whole process and make sure that they're set up in the right direction.
Thank you. That's a great question. What other questions are out there?
Maya, if I could just add something.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Jordan.
I was just going to let you know, if you are completing up your bachelor's in May and you're looking at starting into this program for the summer, if you're starting classes then, what you would need to do for your FAFSA is you would need to, after your May graduation, go in and update your FAFSA to reflect that you are now a graduate student. We have to see that when you're in a grad program, that update has to be done before we can award any financial aid.
Thank you, Jordan. That's a great point too as well. What other questions do you guys have out there regarding the program? Dr. Bass, it looks like I have another question for you just regarding more about the mentorship program. Will students have a lot of potential to interact with their mentors?
Yeah, so that's a great question. With our mentorship program, starting this summer, once you enter the program, you'll be assigned to a mentor. And throughout your coursework, you'll have assignments that are based around your interactions with that mentor. So it may be doing an interview with them, or it may be using their expertise for an assignment. It may be trying to set up a job shadow with them if you're close to where they are at. There'll be lots of opportunities that are both forced and informal for you to interact with your mentor. So we try to do our best to get you connected with them through these formal assignments. And then through that, the idea is then you'll continue those connections on your own through the Jayhawk Career Network system that KU has through the Alumni Association. So there's a very, very interactive portal that students have used to connect with people in the field. and we'll make sure that you're both connected with your mentor and other alums in those areas that of interest to you.
Thanks, Dr. Bass. Jordan, it looks like I have a question for you regarding financial aid. So is there a certain time frame that the application would need to be completed in order to receive financial aid?
It depends on when you're starting. If you are looking at starting in summer, you will want to update your application once your spring aid has dispersed, wherever you are attending, if it's KU or another university. Then if you're coming in for fall, you can go ahead and complete that FAFSA now. We don't have a set date that you have to have completed it by, but the sooner you have that FAFSA submitted and updated, then that gives us the opportunity, once we start awarding aid for that particular term, you would be in that first group to be packaged for the aid.
Thanks so much. What other questions do we have out there? Looks like we're coming to a close as far as like with questions. I just want to confirm, we'd like to give you some moments back into your day. Any additional questions, as again, you have Dr. Bass here, you have Jordan here from Financial Aid. It's a great time to ask questions that I guess myself or Jeremiah may not be able to answer about the program, because we're more so geared towards the admissions process. But if you have additional questions, please feel free to ask now. And it looks like we have another question. Great. Dr. Bass, it looks like a student would like to know, will the student have an option to pick the mentor, or will they just be assigned one?
For your initial assignment for your class, so you'll be assigned a mentor, and then we show students the groups of people that are in the mentorship program. And moving forward after your first course, if there's somebody else that you think you have a fit with, then you're certainly welcome to request to switch to that person. But like we said, it's very informal. So while you may have a mentor that you're officially paired with, I think most of our students go through the program interacting with with at least 3 or 4 of our alums throughout to help them through their studies.
Great. What other questions do we have out there? So it looks like our questions are coming to an end. Again, I want to thank you all for attending today's webinar. Again, thank you, Dr. Bass. Thank you, Jordan. Thanks, Paul. If you guys have any additional questions, you can always feel free to reach out to myself or Jeremiah, as our contact information you should have. My contact information is listed there. But also just keeping in mind, you can use that same number. If you're trying to get in contact with Jeremiah, I'll be more than happy to send you over to him. But again, if you come up with any questions regarding the program, please feel free to reach out directly. Want you to enjoy the rest of your day and rock chalk.